This conference will now be recorded.
So, this morning we're going to hear about tourism, and we got a chance to meet the gentleman you're going to hear from in a little bit. We had him meet him yesterday at 3:30, and I got to tell you, y'all ready for a good show. I think we'll hear some good stuff, and we'll have some good times. Before we get started, though, we want to recognize a few VIPs here. Of course, our mayor, Jimmy Mize, is with us. And Gabe Trujillo, with NISD. We have a few board members, Marcus and Roger, Craig, and Ellen Thompson. And of course, I want to thank our big sponsor, XLER, and Carol Bean. Before we get started, though, we got an invitation.
Let's pray for this good food we've already eaten. Father, we do thank you for this day, for the blessings that you've given us. Lord, I ask that we do thank you for this Christmas season, Father, and for the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ, we can celebrate. Father, I do ask you that you give us a desire to go from here today and to, through a gift or an action, try to change someone's life. Father, this is the season that we need to help others. Lord, I ask that you would bless this food in our bodies and us in our service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, and next is Wayne Mitchell. He's going to tell you a little bit about chamber events and bring up our guests. Wayne Mitchell.
Please hold your applause. I wonder who that was. I'm sending you flowers later. First of all, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Eggs and Issues. I'm excited about this program as well as I have been the past month. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say here. There are a few things going on that I will make you aware of. Today is an extraordinarily busy day. The Nacogdoches Women's Federation, hosted by our very own Betty Shin, will have a ribbon cutting this afternoon at the old university building at 4:30, and I would encourage you all to attend. That's a fun event. It's going to be real. My understanding, Miss Betty, that the building is decorated.
Correct. Back in 1800s.
Well, there you go. And I remember that very well. But all kidding aside, that's going to be a great event. That'll be 4:30, and then after that, we're all going to get into our cars and journey across town to the beautiful MaxSpace facility for 5:30 for Live After 5. And my understanding is that we're going to have a visit by Santa and Mrs. Claus there. So if you're on the naughty list, this is your good chance to lobby Santa to get back on the good list. And all kidding aside, if you haven't seen that facility, it is also gorgeous. It's beautiful. And I've had the privilege of touring it several times, and I'm always amazed at that facility and the great services the folks at MaxSpace provide. Other things, our member of the month is Surf Pro from Lufkin and Nacogdoches County. We have a ribbon. We'll have Operation Thank You on January 8th, 19th, and 20th. Cranwood Coliseum with the Lumberjacks is going to be January 20th, and I hope you'll join us for that and fill that facility. If you haven't caught a game this year, let me tell you, the men's and women's program is extraordinary. They're great teams, both of them. It's a great brand of basketball, and they're both doing very, very well, both in the conference and the out-of-conference games. So it's a great opportunity. The next business development program will be on January 25th from 9:30 to 11. The topic is constitutional carry in your business. Many of you folks know that the Texas legislature changed the regulations effective September 1st about carrying firearms. And this is a wonderful opportunity for you to learn what it means to your business or your organization. New members, the Village Snack, we welcome them aboard. Biotech America, LLC, doing business as Freedom Plaza. A great opportunity. And then I also want to remind you folks that we're pleased to have with us today Tim Edmond, 79 Photography. Tim, wave. There he is, right there. That's a brand new member. We welcome you, Tim. And last but certainly not least, well, two items. One is that we're going to be journeying in February to Austin as a group with our partners from Lufkin and Angelina County. We're going to have an opportunity to interact with state regulators and state department heads and to promote our positions and our priorities with those folks, and then host a legislative reception at the Austin Club, which will be, I believe, on that Wednesday evening. So if you're interested in going, please let us know. We'll be sending out notices and invites very, very soon from the Chamber office. And on April 7th and 8th, right here in the beautiful Fredonia Hotel and Convention Center, we will have the Lone Star Legislative Summit, where we bring literally Austin to Nacogdoches, Texas. We're going to have a keynote speaker of some notoriety on the 8th, which we will then transfer to the campus of Stephen F. Austin State University. And that keynote speaker will be a gentleman named Chris Cassidy. Chris is a retired U.S. Navy SEAL. He was decorated in Afghanistan with 2 Bronze Stars and I believe presidential citation. He came back. The Navy sent him to MIT to get a degree in engineering, and while at MIT, he was invited by NASA to apply for and became an astronaut. And Chris joined the astronaut corps some years ago. He just completed his 3rd mission to space, spending a total on 3 missions of 377 days on the International Space Station. Came back a few months ago and retired and became the president and CEO of the Medal of Honor Foundation Museum, which is brand new. It's being constructed in Arlington, Texas. And they're going to break ground on that in the next few months. And then they will refocus their attention to building a Medal of Honor recognition monument in Washington, D.C. next to the Lincoln Memorial. So it's an incredible opportunity to come and meet Chris Cassidy and hear his story. I've had the privilege of meeting Chris and reading his bio and the recent article that CNN just did on him. It's going to be great to have him here in Nacogdoches. So please plan on joining us on the 7th and 8th. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my remarks. It's my privilege now to introduce the executive director of Visit Nacogdoches, my colleague and friend Sherry Cheney Moorhead. You know, we're really blessed here in Nacogdoches to have some talented people, and this woman is at the top of the list. I've had the privilege of working with her several years here, and she is, through a very challenging time during the pandemic, she continued to make Nacogdoches hospitality industry continue not only just to survive, but to thrive. We're blessed to have her here. For the purpose of introduction, would you please welcome Sherry Cheney Moorhead.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I am so pleased and proud to introduce everybody here today to our friend from Tomball, Mike Baxter. A graduate of Georgia State University with degrees in journalism and marketing, Mike has spent more than 40+ years promoting tourist destinations and attractions and developing award-winning festivals and special events. A few places you may have heard of: the Six Flags Astroworld, Splashtown Water Park, and Traders Village Marketplace. Mike continues to implement marketing and public relations programs designed to increase awareness of these and other major destinations across the South. Currently the Director of Marketing and Tourism for the City of Tomball, Mike created the city's first ever marketing and festival program in 2011, involving more than a dozen high-profile award-winning festivals that bring thousands of visitors to Tomball each year. He was also responsible for developing Tomball's highly successful traditional and social media programs, as well as building a photo vault of more than 3,000 promotional images. Working with small to mid-sized destinations and events, Mike is also the owner of Houston-based Texas Festival and Tourism Consulting. Mike is a certified festival and event executive, former chairman of the Texas Festival and Events Association, and was named Chief Marketing Officer of the Year by the Houston Business Journal in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mike Baxter.
Have I really done all of that?
We're going with it.
Sounds like too much. Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me here today. Earlier this year, I came up with Blueberry Festival. And this was the first time I had been to Nacogdoches in years and had a great time at the event. If you'll notice the profile picture up here, thank you very much. That was the drink that I am holding there, Taylor made for me at Front Porch Distillery. And the picture of the truck is to prove that I was actually here. So I wanted to make sure that everyone realized. So yeah, tourism and festivals obviously took a real hit last year. This year we're recovering, and that's what this is all about. When I was asked to come and speak about this, Kelly and I both decided neither one of us had a crystal ball. But by doing some research, speaking with industry professionals around the state, what you're going to see today are some things that happened during the pandemic, things that are turning around, and what we kind of foresee for next year in the tourism and festival industry. So, marketing and tourism of events using festivals, for us in Tomball, it was a real marketing tool. Do I need this? Can I step aside a little bit?
You can take it out
Can I
and
take
use
it
it.
out?
Yeah, that way everybody will be able to.
Got it.
Move around.
There we go. So, is that much better? It is for me. In Tomball and in other communities around the state, around the country, we don't use festivals so much as entertainment for people. We made it specifically a tool in our marketing toolbox so that people would come to Tomball for the first time, see what we had there, and then they'd come back at some future time and spend their money. We don't charge admission for any festivals that we have because we know that we're going to get the sales tax dollars when the people do come back, and then the money comes back into the city that way. So in less than 10 years, Tomball went from that sleepy little town northwest of Houston into a true destination. People would say, yeah, I know Tomball, that's the place you drive through on the way to the Renaissance Festival. Well, not anymore. We're actually a destination now because of the work that's gone on over the past 10 years. The historic downtown district has basically no empty retail space at all along Main Street, and the numbers are up on the side streets as well in the downtown area. It's 100% occupied on Main Street, and we have these unique shops and restaurants, mom and pop restaurants, and several of them, like Tejas Barbecue, was named in the top 50 barbecue joints this year. The last time Texas Monthly did the survey, it was number 5 in the state. So, you know, we've got some very well-known restaurants. In fact, we had a TV reporter, if you're familiar with Houston at all, the Heights is the oldest restaurant neighborhood in all of Houston. And this reporter actually called Tomball the Heights in the country. And so that was a real compliment to get. We have 99% occupancy on the side streets off of Main Street. There's one main landlord that owns almost all of, about 90% of the downtown area. And he has then converted houses and storefronts into restaurants and unique shops. Well, he reported last week in a news article that he is at 99% occupancy on his 88 properties in the downtown area. So this is where people are coming, they're opening businesses, and it's revitalizing the entire downtown. So the buzz that's generated by the programs that we've instigated over the past several years is not only generating the retail business in the downtown area. But as you can see here, there are 2,000 residential building permits have been issued by the city of Tomball for next year alone. And the majority of these are the 300,000 and up price range. They are in a lot of cases gated communities, and there are some $1 million homes that are being built in the Tomball area right now. This past Monday night, City Council approved a 3.4 million square foot mixed use project that also involves annexation of property. And that has come as a result of how vibrant the community has become. Paradigm Brewing Company is now open in Tomball. The really cool thing about this is the brewmaster from Paradigm was the former brewmaster of Carbach Brewing. And he was a graduate of Tomball High School in 1999. He wanted to open his own brewery. He left Carbach and he's brought it home. And so they're open right now with distribution in HEB, and they will be opening to the public for tours. There's a restaurant there that will be open 7 days a week, plus a kids' play area to keep it real family friendly. And then the revitalization of the downtown tourist district as a destination has just been incredible. Let's talk about COVID for just a little bit. Everybody knows that it was devastating to tourism and to festivals across the state of Texas. No one was traveling and no one was gathering pretty much because of the shutdown. But there were places that continued to do well. For example, Montgomery County. We talked about this in our meeting yesterday, where Harris County was pretty much locked down and no one was able to put on any kind of gatherings. If I was 3 miles north of where we are located in North Harris County in Montgomery County, I could have held every event that we do in 2020. Montgomery County and Conroe, they did the Catfish Festival, the Renaissance Festival up in Grimes County continued, but with limitations. So it just all depended on where you were in the state. There were different problems that people had that were putting on these events. There were actually companies that were renting and selling screening devices so that when you walked in the gate, it would check the temperature of everyone walking through the gate. And if the beeper went off, you were pulled out of line and then you were checked again for temperature and whatever. So it was that extreme, down to things just as simple as sanitation procedures that had to be done near, like wiping down tables and things like that. No one wanted to deal with potential negative PR aspects of being that super spreader location. So a lot of us did not open, and no one wanted to be tagged with that and be eventually sued by some kind of festival. So again, depending on what part of the state you were in, you could open up, you couldn't in other areas, but again, the Montgomery County, we were very happy our friends up there were able to do the things in Montgomery County. But we went virtual, along with a lot of other festivals and events all over the state. And by doing that, we still kept all of our guests that would normally come to our events engaged, so they didn't forget about us during the shutdown. And so in Tomball, these were the events that we actually did virtually in 2020. Our Bluegrass Festival, our July 4th celebration, our lighted up Christmas tree lighting that was named as the best virtual event in Texas by the Texas Festivals and Events Association this year, and then Groove Fest, our celebration of all things groovy, baby. And so on the Bluegrass Festival, that's the lower shot. What we did was bring in one of our regular bluegrass bands, and they performed an hour-long presentation that went live on Facebook Live, and people were invited to tune in. And it was a 2-camera shot. The thing looked really nice. The sound was good, and at least it let them, it made them remember that we do have a Bluegrass Festival. The one at the top, though, that's the lighted up Christmas tree celebration. That was a 3-camera event. About 75 people showed up, even though we told them it was going to be virtual only, so don't come, but they did. And I mean, the production quality on this thing, and it was so simple. I mean, that was the board that they worked the cameras from and everything. But the production quality was as good as anything that you would have seen on broadcast television. And it was so easy to do, and I paid $1,200. We had thousands of people tune in that night, and then where it replayed over and over and over on Facebook, we had There's more to it. Now, the fun thing about the 4th of July celebration was normally our 4th of July celebration is not only fireworks, but it's a giant street party. TxDOT lets us shut down business 249 for about 3/4 of a mile. And in the middle of it, it's a street festival with vendors and entertainment and just all sorts of activities. So what we did was, by doing it virtually, we still did the fireworks show. And we invited everyone to come and park in all the parking lots, any space they could find on the entire west side of Tomball. And then they tailgated, and we called it social distancing with a bang, was the tagline that we had on it. And so we had thousands and thousands of people still turn out, but they weren't out in the street, and really getting in close together. Everything it was a great success. So all of these events were in real time, and we have been told by city management that because of the success of these particular virtual events we did last year, that all the major events that we do from now on out, they want those then either entirely or in part done as a live stream on Facebook Live or on YouTube. So that's something we'll be working toward for next year. Tourism outlook. We looked at several recent reports from the Texas Travel Alliance and from Houston First in order to get this information. A third of travelers that were surveyed by the Texas Travel Alliance are planning on taking more leisure trips this year than they did in the past. Top destinations are beaches, national and state parks, and lucky for us, rural towns. That's where people want to go. Texas still ranks as one of the most desirable destinations in the country for leisure travel, and Texas is ranked at number 5. 39% of American travelers are planning to travel by car this year. The rising cost of gasoline, however, is looking to be an hindrance. It could be much higher were it not for these gasoline prices. And what's really neat is that members of Texas Travel Alliance, especially in the Valley and areas, this is important, areas surrounding Houston and San Antonio are seeing big increases in tourism. And what's funny about that is no one wants to go into these 2 big cities or other cities around the state. They would rather go out into the suburbs and visit attractions and destinations that are surrounding these big cities. And then in the Houston area, except for the downtown convention hotels, overnight stays are returning to normal. The Galleria and the Woodlands are seeing the fastest recovery. And what's interesting is the area I'm in, Northwest Houston, they're reporting that Northwest Houston is flat when compared to 2019. Well, when you compare flat to 2020, we're doing really well in Northwest Houston. So everybody's really excited about that. And that also equates to higher hot tax dollars that are going to be coming to help promote our events and festivals. The festival industry in Texas has bounced back in a big way. Attendance at festivals that have reopened before the pandemic is way up. It's incredible hearing stories from the Texas Festivals and Events Association conference we had a few weeks ago about the numbers. There was one provider, a vendor who does soundstage lighting, did a festival in Ennis not too long ago, and the 3-day event in Ennis would normally draw somewhere around 20,000 people. This year, over 3 days, they did 40. So they doubled attendance because people want to get out, come back, and get back into the festival business. Now, unfortunately, there are some that the pandemic really slammed, and they have not yet reopened. And as you can see, the Plano Balloon Fest, a long-running event that has not yet reopened, and Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo actually was shut down again for 2 years, and hopefully they'll be back in the spring. So this will give you an idea of how attendance is with our Tomball festivals. The German Festival was 45,000 earlier this year versus 40 back in 19. The July 4th celebration in 19, we did 40,000 this year versus 35. Groove Fest, 64 over 5,000. You can see the numbers are up on pretty much everything. Even Depot Day, it's a small event. It's an event that is a celebration of National Model Railroad Month across the country. So we have model railroads in our Depot Museum, and we almost doubled attendance this year over 19 because the the model railroad enthusiasts wanted to get out. As you can see here, a quote from the Blueberry Festival, the largest in recent year as far as attendance. The Dobie Dichos event, which is a small ticketed event celebrating the life and stories of Texan J. Frank Dobie over in Oakville. Have you ever heard of Oakville? It's a great little place. It used to be the county seat for Live Oak County. And then it was moved politically, over to George West. Well, someone came in and all that was at that property was basically the old jail. The thing is 2 stories tall, rock. I mean, it's just gorgeous. They turned it into a bed and breakfast. And then all around the area, they brought in these homes, historic homes. You know, they turned those into little bed and breakfast facilities as well, with a giant green in the middle. That's where this event goes on, is in that green. Now he's brought in a chapel from Three Rivers, I believe. That was, it seats about 150 people. He remodeled that over the last year, and now he's got a venue where he can do weddings in the chapel, they can do the receptions in the green, and then all the wedding party stays in all his homes and then the old jail. So he had a vision, he did it, it's working out really well, and that's where the Dobie Dichos event is held. And then this year, the Texas State Fair recorded the highest attendance that they've ever had. So getting back to business, one of the most important things that I feel that you can do is networking with your neighbors. By doing that, you can pool your dollars and your efforts in order to promote your area as a whole. In the Houston area, we have a group called Around Houston, and it's a part of Houston First. And so we are a group of 15 towns, smaller communities that surround the Houston area. Even though it's spearheaded by the folks at Houston First, we still we get together once a month and discuss ideas for promoting tourism and festivals and events. We co-op our dollars so that, for example, we recently did the the Texas Dallas Travel and Adventure Show at the Convention Center. Instead of costing us like $5,000 a person, we had 10 people, so it cost us 500 apiece. And it was a weekend-long event. And what we were able to do there is, I had an event on Saturday and couldn't go up, but there were people from our group representing us there on Saturday, and then I was able to drive in on Sunday, and I was representing them then on Sunday. So it works out really well that way. Our group goes all the way from Huntsville to Galveston and from Sugar Land to Beaumont, so we cover a large area. Up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it was the Dallas-Fort Worth Area Tourism Council, DAFWAC, and they promoted the Metroplex for many years in all of the smaller communities, including Dallas and Fort Worth. And then down in the lower valley, down the coast, is the Texas Coastal Bend Regional Tourism Council. They have 25 communities that have banded together in order to do things. If you're not already doing that, I suggest that's something that you look into doing because it works really well for everyone involved. Joining industry associations is something that has always worked well for us because it gives you the opportunity to network and to, for education. And for example, I have mentored people in the organization for years, and it's especially with the younger folks that are coming into the industry, we all get together, we do classes. The Texas Event Management Institute is something that was created by the Texas Festivals and Events Association about 3 years ago, and this year we had 50 graduates of the Institute at our annual conference in San Antonio. The International Festivals and Events Association, the Texas Festivals and Events Association are very strong partners, and like I said, we're very strong into education and networking. And I believe, Kelly, you guys just rejoined or something? Yeah. So you will be a part of that group then. And then TFEA alone has more than 150 festivals that are involved. The conference had 300 people plus there this year. The Texas Travel Alliance is an advocate for destinations and attractions and others in the Texas tourist industry. And then the Texas Association of Fairs and Events is the lead organization in the state for fairs, rodeos, and others. So even though the Texas Festivals and Events Association and the Texas Association of Fairs and Events do somewhat cross over. We're still separate. You remember that. So think about that. Again, back to business. Event insurance has now become a major thing that we're all having to really be more concerned about. The right insurance is key for any event. There's just certain things that festivals need that other businesses don't. And so today, the days of basic liability, loss of revenue, and rain insurance alone are gone. You've got to look into other things. Organizers are now learning how to transfer risk to their service providers. We make our guys that come in and bring in sound, stage, lighting, our food vendors, all these guys have to add the city of Tomball to their insurance policies as an additional insured. We talked about that yesterday, how important that is, because there's so many liabilities that we all have to worry about nowadays. Finding a good insurance provider willing to underwrite events is becoming more challenging, because as people begin to sue more for events and more activities or more incidents are happening, it's really pushing the costs up, and people who are really into knowing what to do and how to do it in the insurance industry, there are fewer to be found. And then the Astroworld concert incident that happened several weeks ago in Houston, that is forcing promoters now to take out more coverage, and that additional cost is being passed along to organizers of events. I read an article last week that said in the past, if a promoter was putting on an event and they were required to provide, let's say, $5 million in insurance coverage, then starting next year, it's going to be closer to $7 million or more they're going to have to provide. And so they're going to pass that along to you. Now, this information came from the Caleb Insurance Company out of San Antonio. They are a major sponsor of and member of the Texas Festivals and Events Association. The chairman this year is actually David Oliveros from the Caleb Insurance Company, and they specialize in festival and event advertising all over the country. Security measures, again, because of all the things that have happened in parades and music festivals, things have changed. The recent tragedies at Waukesha and in South by Southwest a few years ago in Austin have forced us into doing additional safeguards. After South by Southwest happened, where a fellow drove out into the streets and killed folks, they were only using the wooden sawhorse barricades, and that's what we were doing too. So the city manager at the time said, "That's over. We're going to start doing solid barricades." So we started renting the big water-filled barricades that you see at construction sites. It didn't take long for us to realize renting barricades is very expensive. And half of the barricades you get have a crack in the whole water. So we made a purchase of 80 barricades ourselves that first year, and we have since added to that. But now, because of the additional accident incidents that are happening, the city is considering actually putting in barricades that are removable in the street that can actually raise up out of the street, or the posts that can be inserted into the streets. So there'll no longer be any of the water-filled barricades and very few of the sawhorse barricades. And that's something that we had never even considered until recently. People are also reconsidering now the use of private security personnel and volunteers. They talked about at the Astroworld event how much security they had out there. When it boiled down to it, though, the number of uniformed police officers from Harris County and the city of Houston were very small compared to what were their security people that were just the big guys wearing T-shirts that really didn't know what to do. So that's having to be reconsidered. And then everyone is creating more comprehensive incident and action plans that have more detail in them than ever before. The sanitation procedures as a result of the COVID-19, even though things are less strict, there are still things, though, that we can do in order to make our guests feel more comfortable. And that's everything from regularly monetizing and sanitizing tables near food vendors, disinfecting surfaces regularly touched, misting the porta cans every so often, And if face covers are not required by your event, then just let people know it's okay to do it, because there's still people out there that want to wear their masks, and they don't need to feel like that they're out of place. You know, there was a time just recently that they were requiring that you go into porta cans, and after every single use, someone would have to go into every porta can, wipe it down, and then disinfect it. Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. Just an occasional popping in and a little mist in there, and everything doesn't hurt. Our volunteers, I know I saw, you know, at your event, you know, how the Tea Club was working with Kiwanis at the pancake breakfast. Well, that's where we, for the most part, got our pool of volunteers were from the schools, from Tomball High School, Tomball Memorial, and Concordia, this private Lutheran high school in Tomball. But because of things, restrictions the schools still have on them getting out and doing things, you know, we lost the majority of that. In fact, our last event, last weekend, our Deck the Depot kids event with Santa and the whole thing, we ended up going to HEB, and they gave us 5 volunteers to work Santa Claus and to maintain that area, and it worked out really well for us. But volunteers in the community in general are primarily, in our case, for seniors, and they were still not comfortable in coming to an event with large gatherings, so therefore we've lost that as well. But luckily, churches and groups like Kiwanis, Rotary Alliance, VFW, American Legion, and others have stepped up to fill the gap in our case. Sponsorships, obviously they dropped off substantially, but now it's coming back as the sponsors are seeing that people are coming back in larger numbers than ever before. And so we're doing really well, and across the state, things are really moving up. One group that's very slow to return, however, is dealerships, car and truck dealerships, because they don't have the inventory on site. So that's a real problem with them. The Plano Balloon Fest, however, even though they have not opened in 2 years, their major sponsors opted to let them have their donation, their sponsor donation, as just a donation to the nonprofit balloon festival as a community thing. Because if they did not, the loss of revenue to the balloon festival would have put them out of business after all these years. And we saw that, the community stepped up to help the festival. Entertainment-wise, local and regional acts are what we use most in small to medium-sized events. The cost for those performers is pretty reasonable. It'll maintain what it has been before, but the cost for name acts is pretty much going to increase from what we've been told because of all these new travel costs, because of gasoline going up, insurance regulations, fewer venues that are open, and other factors. So working with a reputable talent agent and booking multiple acts can save you money. Find out what their tour route is. That can save you money as well. But using lower cost solo performers and novelty acts has really become something economical and works out really well for festivals around the state. If you can see up here in the top right-hand corner, that's Washboard Willie. And Washboard Willie is a one-man band. I've known his wife for years, but I actually met him for the first time at the festival's conference this year. He travels all over the country in a van and lives out of his van half the time. But this guy's incredible and puts on a show. He's a traveling performer in your festival venue, or he can be a stage act. So things like this, when you look at things other than more traditional bands and stuff, that can really be good for you. Licensing, Ellie and I talked about this. Man, I just hate these guys. BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, and others, they never even let up during the pandemic. We didn't do a single festival. We had no live entertainment. We didn't open our swimming pool, yet they still demanded their money. And when we told them that we didn't, they said, well, did anybody play a radio? Yeah. So, well, if the public was able to hear that radio, then you owe us money. So we still had to pay. I know it's an ongoing thing. When I was at Traders Village, the owners of Traders Village up in Grand Prairie decided that they weren't going to pay the fees, and we had live bands every weekend. And so they refused to pay, and so someone from ASCAP actually came to Grand Prairie, sat down with the president of the company. The president laid out this whole thing and said, look, we're not playing these songs. The bands are paying, so the bands should be paying for them. And when it was all over and done with, an hour later, the man from ASCAP stood up and he said, I appreciate your presentation. We'll expect your check on Monday. And walked out, and that was it. No discussion. Bars have been put out of business because they refused to pay because they're playing a jukebox or whatever. So this is just the cost of doing business. So if you play live stage music, you pay a yearly fee. You play recorded music, you pay a yearly fee. And if you sing along with a tune in your car, you pay a yearly fee. Just kidding. So again, take my advice, just pay it, let it go. So in a recap, things are looking really, really good for 2022. We're really excited about it. The hotels are getting back to capacity. That means more hot funds for us, and so that's very exciting. More people will be vacationing in 2022. They're traveling by cars. They're going to rural destinations, which again is good for us. The festivals were back in a big way, record-breaking attendance all over the state. There's going to be a need for tighter security and overall planning and adequate insurance, and just remember to have fun. So that's that. I'd like to questions, please. Sir, you in the front.
Yeah. Mike, in view of these terrible tragedies we've seen in California, Las Vegas, and Wisconsin recently in festivals, what can we anticipate? Are we going to get to the point where running an event becomes cost prohibitive when it comes to insuring?
It could be, especially for a smaller event. That's where sponsors are going to have to really pick up the slack as well. So, and again, a sponsor is going to be reconsidering participating with festivals and events too, because of the chance of a liability issue with them as well. Smaller events will probably be impacted more than the larger events, but these big music concerts, people are reassessing those now. What was really interesting was even after the Astroworld event in Houston, they basically did the same event in Las Vegas. I believe it was the same the next weekend, and it was just like business as usual, even after all this stuff had happened.
Is there any sense of forecast as to what the rates will be moving forward here?
I have not heard a specific number, no. I just heard that there will be increases. Yes, sir.
When we close our streets downtown, we sometimes hear from our merchants it's a negative effect on them, parking and the businesses. What's been your experience? What do you feel?
We hear the same thing occasionally, but the merchants really appreciate the number of people that spill over from the festival into their areas. The one shop that actually closes every German Fest is the barber shop, because he said nobody's going to come in here to get a haircut and there's no place for them to park, so why bother? So they just shut down. But the retailers that are out there with merchandise to sell, this festival has 200 vendors and food vendors, merchandise vendors combined. And so the restaurants in the downtown area, people don't want to stand in line necessarily. They're going to spill over. One thing that we talked about among ourselves earlier this morning was that tourism and festivals, there's a trickle down effect. So people who are not in the exact area of the event, people on the outside think, well, they're the only ones benefiting from this. And that's not the case, because there's the trickle down effect of where if somebody comes to town, they may end up buying gas, going to a convenience store, or they need something else, or staying in a hotel. And so people outside of the main festival area are actually benefiting as well. And then if you've done it right, they're going to come back to the city as a whole in the coming days. The events right in our downtown festival area around the old depot, they just love us. On Monday, they come and tell us how many people, how much biggest sales in months. And then it'll be 2 or 3 weeks later, you'll be talking to somebody that's 3 blocks away, and they're going to say, yeah, my numbers were really up this past weekend. I don't know what happened. It's because somebody came in 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, saw what we did in town, they came back to it. So everybody benefits from this, not just those in the Yes, sir.
So on non-ticketed, really public events, in big numbers, how do you estimate or measure attendance?
The way we do it, and I saw something on LinkedIn earlier this week, somebody asked that question, and so I responded, and everybody else started responding. It's just the old school way. We go to Academy or a sporting goods store and buy the clickers, and we take our volunteers and we set them at the main entrances, and we give 2 clickers to each entrance, and every hour we go around and we check their numbers on the clickers, and then we average those, and then at the end of the day, we take that total number that we have, we add 5% for anybody that may have come in that nobody saw, because these are teenagers primarily, and they're talking to whatever it happens to be. And that's how we get our numbers. Whereas the German festival, we have a gyroplane, fire department, police department has it, and they'll fly over and they'll take pictures of the highlight of the day, and they'll shoot shots down in the event. And then there's a formula that is from the parks, I guess the parks folks in Washington, D.C., that they use for the downtown, for the things in Washington, D.C. and whatever. And they use that formula to figure their account. But we don't use any kind of electronic devices or anything like that. The clickers, they cost like $3 a piece, and it's just so easy to do.
It just seems like being accurate or fairly accurate with that would be more meaningful to
Sponsors. It is, absolutely. And I just hate these events where we come back and ask these folks, not city events, but the ones that are brought to us, and you ask, okay, so how many folks do you think you had? It looked like maybe 25,000. Well, what 25,000 people really looks like. So yeah, so it's coming from a theme park background. We don't have turnstiles, but that's the closest thing I can get to it. So I really like that. Sorry.
Mike, is anybody still using what I inherited here at the chamber is the garbage formula, where we attempt to measure the garbage. Frankly, I'm tired of climbing into dumpsters. But all joking aside, that's how we estimated it. Is anybody using that formula?
I have heard of people doing that, but what German Fest actually does to balance out the numbers that they think they're coming up with, they count the number of beer bottles and kegs of beer that they sell. And they know that, from the distributor, that certain amounts, from other festivals they've done, and how that 1,000 beer bottles is, like 10 guys. I mean, it's just that kind of thing. So,
All right.
yeah. So anyway, that's the approach they use in addition to the overhead. Yes, sir.
Mike, back to the first question he asked with regards to the insurance and cost. The mitigating measures you're taking, for instance, the stops, lights and officers, are you seeing that may benefit in your negotiation for the insurance covering the events versus not doing anything?
Yeah, I'm sure, as opposed to not doing anything to the city, we're self-insured, so we don't deal with the insurance companies the way that, an individual festival would. But yeah, it would be a key factor playing into that. We can certainly find out from Caleb, how they're going to be looking at it. Yes, ma'am.
What I found interesting is your comment about communities collaborating together that helps promote their entire region, their area, and then brings people in. And so it benefits everyone. So could you share more ideas of maybe how East Texas could do that, working together? I'm got a past in the festival industry.
She does have a past.
I'm with the Family Crisis Center of East Texas now. We serve 9 counties in East Texas. In my world, all the way around to collaborate with one another, work together to solve the issues we were all having and benefit all of us. So, what are some suggestions?
Yes, Melissa and I served on the board of directors for the Texas Festivals and Events Association, right?
Yes.
And that's when Jerry was chairman.
Yes.
Maybe, yeah. So we've known each other for quite a while. But yeah, it's up here. Any community that has some sort of a tourism program. But what we have found through around Houston is that we had our 4 of 14 different cities in our group, and then we were approached by the city of Shenandoah to join our group. So we went to them and said, do you have a marketing plan? Do you have hot tax dollars that you can throw toward this to be an active participant in our group? And we went out and did a site survey. They showed us all of their, what they have to offer to us. And we decided not to accept them the first year because they didn't have a strategic plan on what their goals were and how to do things. Now they were just kind of there and wanted to piggyback on what the other guys were doing. Second year, they came back with a comprehensive plan. They showed how much money they had in the bank they could throw toward this, and then they were able to come into our organization, and now they're a full participant. They're doing these trade shows and things. So finding out how viable these other possible participants would be and what they can contribute is really important. And you don't want to leave out the little guys that can't afford it, but you just got to take that into consideration. Because some people are going to be able to afford doing trade shows and doing co-op advertising. With Around Houston, we actually take out ads in Texas Monthly Magazine as a group, and each of us has our own little strip, same size, same, it's a column, half column, whatever, and they all look alike, all these ads, and it's promoting the Southeast Texas, Houston region as a whole, so that hopefully when somebody comes down to see us, they may be going to Houston, but they're going to say, well, Tom Hall, that's what's really away. They've got a brewery out there. Let's go check that out. So that's kind of the whole, the whole emphasis of this thing is as a group, it's easier to sell. Do we have time? Yes, sir.
Obviously, with your German festival, you have beer. With your other festivals, do you have alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Or you folks stroll around your downtown with alcohol?
Only the festival areas. Yeah, we don't allow them to go out. We don't, because of TABC, we don't allow them to come in. Within the festival grounds, they can't. There's no just blocked off area within the grounds. They can go anywhere because TABC has for a layout of the whole thing.
And then when you don't have festivals, is there alcohol out?
No.
Around your
No, because it's basically a farm. Thank you, folks. We sure appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mike, and it was very, very informational, and we had a great Christmas festival here a few days ago, and Blueberry Festival was great. So we see the numbers are going up, and we hope that 2022 was another banner year in that regard. Well, we're ready for the.
We're ready to give away $50 from Commercial Bank. Can I have a Commercial Bank representative come up and draw? Who's coming up? Hi. He is drawing, not me. Yeah. Other side. Who's our winner?
Tree full.
All right.
Now,
$250 sponsored by Ashley and Rhodey. Must be present to win. Has to be the name, your name, and the business name. And we have two people, Paulietta and Victor from Ashley and Rhodey. Victor's coming up.
I think all of our members are.
All of our members are in this. And we all notice Victor is pulling, so it's not me. I'm just holding the basket. So who is it?
Jamie Rodriguez from State Farm.
Oh. He's on here.
Go tell Jamie that she missed out on some money.
Thank you.
So, well, that's it. This afternoon, I hope you can make it out to the old university building at 4:30 and see this fabulous ribbon cutting we're going to do. And then at 5:30, you can go out to Max Space and join us all again for a big party and a Live After 5 event. So hopefully that is it. And if you have anything else, hope you have a good day at work and see you later.